Dear students, welcome to our YouTube channel Vidya for Success. In this video, let us continue our study on the morphology of flowering plants. Yes, in our last video, we have discussed about the different parts of the angiospermic plant, and also we understood about root little. Then also we discussed about the root tip region in the angiospermic plant. So now let us study about the different types of roots. So what are the different types of roots? So one of the root is taproot. So we have already discussed about the taproot, right? So which group of plant shows taproot? Dicotyledonous plants, right? So in case of taproot, the primary root will be retained from birth to till death, and this primary root leads to the formation of number of branches like secondary, tertiary and quaternary. So all these lateral branches with their primary root called as taproot, right? And the one more type of root is fibrous root. What do you mean by fibrous root? So fibrous root can be seen in monocotyledonous plant. In this case, the primary root is short-lived. So soon it is replaced by the number of roots. They are directly arises from the base of the stem. So this kind of root is called as fibrous root, right? So taproot consists of the primary root, but fibrous root does not consist of the primary root because it is replaced by number of roots, right? And the one more type, the third one is advantageous roots. What do you mean by advantageous root? So this is the new thing, right? New concept. So advantageous root is a kind of root. It is not directly arises from the radicle. So we have discussed in our last class that taproot formation starts from the radicle, right? As well as the fibrous root formation also starts from the radicle. So radicle is a part of embryo that grows towards the region of soil by forming the primary root. But adventitious root is not formed by the radicle, so that it is not a true root. So when the root is formed from the radicle, such a root is called as true root. So fibrous root is a true root, taproot is also a true root. Then why the adventitious root formation takes place in the plant? What is exactly mean by adventitious root? So adventitious root arises from any part of the plant other than radicle. So if the root arises from any part of the plant other than the radicle, such a root is called as adventitious root, right? So it may be for different purposes. So root in some plants are modified to perform function other than absorption and conduction of water and mineral. So if we talk about the root, one of the primary function the root perform is it absorbs water and mineral from the soil. So that is the basic function of a root performed in all the plants, right? But the adventitious roots are not formed by the radicle. They are arises from any part of the plant. It may be from the branches of a tree, or it may be from the base of the stem, right? So when this kind of root is arises, it does not perform the basic function like absorption and conduction of water and mineral, because the formation of adventitious root is for different purpose. It may be for the support, so for giving additional support to the plant, maybe the adventitious root formation takes place in some cases, and in some cases for storage of food the adventitious roots will form, and in some cases for respiration, in order to help the process of respiration, some of the adventitious roots will form. So these are the purpose of adventitious root. So adventitious roots are also called as modifications of root, right? So why the modification takes place in the root? Because they perform some other function in the plant other than absorption of water and mineral. So they may help in the storage of food, they may give additional support to the plant, and they may help in the process of respiration. So let us talk about how the roots are modified in order to perform these additional functions. So first let us talk about one of the modification of root, that is the storage roots. So if the root is modified for the storage of food material, such roots are called as storage roots, right? So in the dicot plants, the tap root is get swollen in order to store the reserve food material. So why the taproot is becoming swollen? Because it stores food. So when the food is get stored, automatically the taproot will increases in size. That means it will become swollen, and such roots are called as storage roots. So we have different examples here. Turnip is a modified root, and carrot is also a modified root. Sweet potato is also a modified root. So all these modified parts are the underground. Clear? So where the carrot grow, it is actually underground part of the plant. So the taproot of the carrot plant is actually modified by storing the food. So because it stores the food, the root is called as a storage root. You can see the characteristic shape of the carrot. It is in cone shape, right? So it is called as a coniform root because of its characteristic shape. The carrot is called as a coniform root. And just look into the turnip. So turnip appears in top shape, right? So the top of the turnip is swollen and the base is narrow. So because of its characteristic shape, the turnip is called as a napiform root, right? Then if you see the sweet potato is also a storage root. It grow in the underground part of the plant. So this sweet potato is stores the food material in the form of starch. So because all these examples, they are the underground part, they are the modified root for the storage of food, they are named as storage roots, right? So the example is carrot, turnip, sweet potato. Then the one more modified root is prop root. What do you mean by prop root? So prop root is a kind of adventitious root. So this adventitious root gives additional support to the plant. So the best example is banyan tree. So in the banyan tree, you can see the presence of hanging structures, right? You can also observe in the diagram. So there are many hanging structures. They are arises from the branches of tree. So branches in the banyan tree actually very long. So in order to give additional support to the long branches in the plant, there are adventitious roots formation takes place from the branches. So those adventitious roots will hang. So they are the hanging structure, right? And sometimes they touches the soil and give lots of additional support to the growing branches. So these hanging roots are called as prop root, right? So the hanging structures, they are arises from the branches of banyan tree, are named as prop root. What is the function of prop root? It is giving support to the plant. So when the root formation takes place from the aerial part of the plant, that means from the branches of the tree, in order to give additional support, such a root is called as prop root. So the best example is banyan tree. And the one more root that is example for the supportive root is stilt root. So stilt root is a kind of supportive root. So we have studied about the prop root. So prop root actually arises from the branches of the tree and it touches the soil and it acts like a pillar to give additional support to the plant, right? But the stilt roots, they are not arises from the branches of tree. So these roots are arises from the base of the stem. So best example is in maize plant as well as in sugarcane plant. So maize and sugarcane plants are the monocotyledonous plants. So in the monocotyledonous plant, the type of root is fibrous root, right? So the fibrous root does not reaches into the deeper region of soil like a taproot. So in the taproot we can see the primary root will be there. It penetrates to the deeper region of the soil. But if you compare to the fibrous root, the fibrous roots are not penetrating to the deeper region of soil like taproot system, right? So some of the plants like maize and sugarcane, they need additional support to the aerial part because the stem in maize and sugarcane grow very long. So for the aerially growing, the long stem require additional support that is not alone giving by the root, right? So in order to give the additional support from the base of stem, there is a advantageous roots will be get arises. So these advantageous roots will touches the soil and give additional mechanical support to the stem, right? So such a roots are named as the stilt root. You can find in the diagram. So this is the stilt root of maize. Clear? So you can find already the plants consist of fibrous root. They are present in the soil. They are buried in the soil. And from the node of the stem, node, that particular region of the stem is labeled in the diagram. So node is actually the depression area present in the stem. So from that region, some of the additional structure, advantageous roots will be get arises. So those advantageous roots are touches the soil in this case and give additional support to the stem. So this kind of root is called as stilt root, right? You can find from two node, from the base of the stem there is a stilt roots formed, and also from the second node also you can see the formation of stilt roots in the diagram. So this kind of root can be seen in maize plant as well as in sugarcane plant. So what is the function of stilt root? So stilt root gives support to the plant, that means to the aerial part of the plant, by growing from the base of the stem or from the lower node of the stem, right? Yes, let us move to the one more modified root, that is pneumatophores. So pneumatophores are called as respiratory roots. So we have never talked about the function like respiration that is performed by root, right? Because not always the roots helps in the process of respiration. So in some of the cases, in some of the plants, we can see the modified roots, they are meant for the process of respiration. So which plants actually showing this respiratory roots? So respiratory roots can be seen in one of the plants. They are growing in the swampy area. So that name of the plant is Rhizophora. It is commonly called as mangrove plant. So in the Rhizophora, respiratory roots can be seen because it grows in swampy areas. In swampy areas is nothing but the lots of water will be present in the soil, and the water is somewhat salty water, right? So because of the salty water, the plant roots cannot be able to absorb the sufficient amount of oxygen. So in order to get the oxygen, roots come out vertically upward from the soil, right? So this vertically upward roots are called as pneumatophores. So why the roots come out from the plant? Because they need oxygen. Oxygen is available in the atmosphere. So in order to absorb the atmospheric oxygen, some of the advantageous roots comes out from the soil and grow vertically upward. So such a roots are named as pneumatophores. You can find in the diagram. So the main plant they have shown, around the main plants we can see the vertically uh, grown upward roots. So these roots are named as pneumatophores. So pneumatophores consist of lenticels. So there is a small pores will be present on the surface of pneumatophores. So they actually helps in exchange of respiratory gases. So they will get the oxygen, sufficient amount of oxygen because of this modified route. So the pneumatophores are helps in the respiration. They are also called as breathing roots. Right? So why they are called as breathing roots? Because they helps in exchange of respiratory gases. So that pneumatophores are also called as breathing roots. Clear? So this is the one more modification we can see in the mangrove plant. Right? Yes. In today's class we have discussed about different modifications of root for different purpose. So we have studied about the storage roots, helps in the storage of food material, and we have discussed about the supportive root. So the best example is prop root in banyan tree and stilt root in maize and sugarcane plant. And also we talked about pneumatophores, respiratory roots in case of rhizophora. Thank you.